Hello everybody and welcome to Brands Hatch for the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship in Season 3. After today we'll be reaching the halfway mark in the EU series of this championship after we have tackled this great circuit. We've come to the south of the UK today for all the twists and turns that Brands Hatch has to offer for round 5. We're really getting towards the business end of this season now. Normal procedure once again, 25 minutes worth of a sprint race. We'll reverse the grids. We'll have a 50-minute race coming up a little bit later on. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Zach Sweeney for this race. And Zach, it's going to be very, very exciting indeed. Brands Hatch with all of the rises and falls that it has to offer.
It really is such a difficult circuit to conquer, and especially as you say with the elevation changes. Of course, coming off the back of Imola, they are in some respects fairly similar circuits in the sense that mistakes will certainly be punished. Definitely more so here at Brands Hatch. There's not really a lot, there's not a lot of margin for error by any stretch of the imagination. So today, of course, with how close it is in the pro standings and the AM standings, it's going to be ever crucial to get a good result.
It is indeed. We haven't got a lot of time, so let's quickly go through your standings. The pro standings, of course, look like this, with R.A.W.S having taken so many wins so far this season. 6 out of the 8 races so far this season have gone to him, and so he has got a nice lead in that championship ahead of his teammate Sean Campbell. Although it's only 18 points, there's not out of the question that this one can change. And of course in the US standings, which he's also leading in the pro there, so watch out for him a little bit later on tonight when we go live for that. This, though, is a lot closer and very exciting indeed. Braden Melling is leading the AM standings right now. However, he's not got that much of an advantage over Fabian Ponce, and Eric Coulago will be there, Michael Fowler, etc, etc. It's all very, very close indeed. In those standings there. So good to see for both of the standings that things are very much still up for grabs, but we're still in the first half of the season, so we can't get too excited about that just yet.
Really can't. It's still a long way to go, but of course, the first half of the season is always going to be ever crucial to get that momentum going into that final half, because again, it's always good to just build up a nice buffer of points, similar to R.A.W.S, because it's so easy, especially when you're locked in such a tight championship battle, to look back in hindsight with regret and things like that. So these first 5 rounds have been so crucial in just getting that confidence, getting that buffer, and then it sort of just makes that second half a little bit more smooth sailing.
It does indeed. And we've got some very difficult circuits coming up in the second half of the season as well, by the way. The likes of Monza, which is going to be difficult to get through. And then other ones as well. Finishing with a couple of US races, of course, at Sebring and Daytona as well. The drivers are just gridding up at the moment out there on the start line. But we do have a full formation lap here today for us to get through the grid. So it's not going to be too much of a push for time, fortunately. So we'll be able to tell you about those in due course. However, there'll be no surprise to see who is on the pole position, who's alongside him, quite arguably, because that's what we've seen quite regularly from this season, really. So yeah, there'll be no surprises there, to be honest, with the fact that R.A.W.S has indeed got that pole position. But we'll be going through those in a few moments' time. Lights will be on the top of your screen there, but not going to be used until we get back around again for the rolling start, which we will have. There they go, just leaving the pit lane, or leaving the grid boxes now on their way in this formation lap. It's R.A.W.S versus Sean Campbell on the front row. As you'd expect, Stuart Reynolds gets inside the top 3 there ahead of Thomas Reiter, then Tyree Wills rounding out the top 5. Thomas Dandridge is in 6th ahead of Ethan Basley, and Mahern 8th. Taylor Lane and Jonas Dreyer round out your top 10. Chris Chatterton and Michael Patterman just missing out. Then it's Albin Kjellberg in that 13th and final pro position. Ashraf El Haddad has qualified on the pole position for the AM category. Didier de Vlaming is in 2nd ahead of Jeremy de Boiver. Then it's Timothy van der Broek in 4th. Dean Timms running at the top 5. James Costa is in 6th ahead of Eva Linden. Thomas Pugh, Dirk Boutz and Dave Camano round out your top 10. Navarro de Boiver and Jamie Stott are on the 6th row together. Then we've got Jarmo Stasten-Moinen in 26th overall and 13th. Well, I've skipped a few there, haven't I? But sorry, Timo Makio and then Vladimir Helebay. Then Stasten-Moinen gets there in 15th position. Simon Dodd just behind him. Dominic Goodsell and Kurt Hau Jensen will be sharing the 9th row. Jorge Ferrer will be 19th ahead of James Slates, and then Werner S and Mark Bailey will be on the back row together. It's a really large grid actually assembled here for this one. 35 cars going to get underway here at Brands Hatch, and that's going to make it very busy because it's not a long circuit.
It's really not, and of course that dash towards turn 1, incident prone really on the first lap of Brands Hatch through Paddock Hill and then in towards Druids. There's a lot of cars to try and finish your way through, and again it's just taking that air of caution, maybe just surrendering a couple of places to be careful, because again you take a spin on lap 1, it's so difficult to overtake here. Track position is going to be ever important.
It definitely is. And Alex Urenga and Sean Campbell have done themselves a great favour by getting that track position very early on in this one. The two Lamborghinis lining up on the front row here for the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship EU. Going to reach the halfway mark by the end of tonight. And is Alex Urenga going to once again seize more control over this championship with yet another race victory here? He'll be in control as the lights go on here at Brands Hatch, and the pro field for this race is going to get underway. It's a very long hold from Urenga indeed. He needs it as late as possible before finally going now and missing the apex slightly through turn number 1. Sean Campbell not really close enough to capitalise, although Stuart Reynolds trying to go through the middle of the two of them and gets himself up at least into second place. Can't displace Alex Urenga though, who does hold on to the lead.
Just about though, that was crazy, nearly 3 abreast from the front 3. Here we go, underway for the AM category. El Haddad on pole position, Dubova and Vlaminck fighting over both in towards Paddock Hill, and oh my god, Dave Vlaminck already off into the gravel. That's how easy it is on lap 1 here at Brands Hatch for things to go so wrong. And he's tumbling to the back of the order, and well, he's got to get himself going. Luckily not too drastic, but again in a 25-minute sprint race you cannot be affording things like that. And oh, off goes the BMW in the back.
Taylor Lane off the road in a big way, and he'll be going back to the pit lane, I'm afraid, after that big accident at the high-speed Hawthorne bend right at the bottom of the hill there. He'll be going straight back to the pit lane, I'm afraid. It was Vlaminck who got a really slow start actually away in the AM category as well there, and it all just kind of concertinaed everybody up. He ended up in the gravel eventually, and I'm afraid that is the end of a good run and what was a good qualifying for him. He's dropped outside the top 20, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. It was a great start from El Haddad though, to get away there and really march away in that opening corner or so. He hasn't had a win yet this season, and so looking to put that right here today in the 9th race of the season. That will be at the 5th round, but Vandenbroek going to push him all the way with this one. It's only a 25-minute race, and it really does feel like a bit of a sprint race. No pit stops, of course, being made in this race, indeed. But it will feel like quite a long race to El Haddad. As here comes Sean Campbell on the inside of Stuart Reynolds. It looked like there might have been a mistake from Reynolds there, actually, because Campbell got through there very easily.
That was, again, into Hawthorne Bend. You don't really want to just send one to the inside. You've got to make sure you get the move done well before the corner. And Stuart Reynolds, I think, acknowledges that Sean Campbell is just a little bit faster at this stage in the race. And around Brands Hatch, when we've seen how easily things can go wrong, you don't again want to be risking getting caught up in an instant. Just hold on to P3. It's still a good result. Still, relatively long way to go in this race. Of course, still early stages. So again, it's just going to be better to sit back. Maybe he can use Sean Campbell as just a bit of a tow hook towards the back of Alex Urenga, and of course with the likes of R.A.W.S and Thomas Dandridge close behind. What do you really gain from fighting this early on? All you're doing really is just going to bring everyone else back into contention, and then you've got a lot harder thing to be doing. There's R.A.W.S off for the exit of Paddock Hill. I think he's just about managed to keep his foot in and carry on towards Druids, but that could have gone so wrong so easily.
Yeah, I thought the way that car was actually going that he was going to end up going around there. Here it is. Just runs that little bit wide, and it was actually, the camera angle did trick us a little bit. It wasn't quite as big of a moment as I thought initially, but either way, it needed gathering up, and Reynolds certainly did do that. Back in the pack with the AMs now. It is all indeed very close indeed. Oh, Jamie Stott indeed not involved with it because of a spin around there at the back of the circuit. There is no room for error at Brands Hatch. Grass lining this circuit, proper old school racetrack, no tarmac really on the exits of these corners to save you like we see in modern day circuits.
Yeah, you don't really like the runoff very much. Of course, you've got a little bit of a bit of AstroTurf on the exit Graham Hill, which drivers will exploit. But again, it's one of these, I guess, ideal circuits for some drivers. And there's Jonas Strayer going off. I think he was around about P4 or 5. I think P5 in the pro standings, and through Sheen curve in towards Sterling. That is not the way he wanted to take that corner down to. Now P12 and still struggling. Has yet another moment back in to meet Barrier, and that is really, really unfortunate for the Mercedes. And a very premature end to this race. Still Alex Renger that holds the lead out in front, 1.6 seconds clear of his teammate Sean Campbell, and Stuart Reynolds rounding off the podium. But yeah, there's my point through Graham Hill Bend. You can really exploit the track there, but again, into pretty much everywhere else on the circuit, you can't afford to go even an inch wide, because of course, as we saw with R.A.W.S, the gravel, the grass will snap you up.
And Stuart Reynolds now has gone off the road. I think that was at the corner leading into the GP layout. Whether he's just disappeared entirely and disconnected, but I don't think that's the case. I think he just has gone for a spin of his own. He was just getting the pressure applied to him by R.A.W.S into this left-hander. Too much speed on the entry, and that Lamborghini just lost the rear. Oh my word. Avoidance from everybody, a slight hit there from the final car. Well, not the final car to go through, but one of the final ones. Could have been Liam Ahern, who just made that little bit of contact there. But in the end, everybody got away with that, really. Although Stuart Reynolds is going to be kicking himself that he's dropped from a podium place to just hanging on to a top 10.
So easy to do in towards Sterling. Again, it's all about that weight transfer, manipulating the brake to turn the car as much as possible. And again, when you're in such a good position like Reynolds was, it's so frustrating, because all you're doing is kicking yourself, and you're just sat waiting to get back onto the circuit to try and make amends for it. And now he's second last of the running cars in this pro field at the moment. Of course, still, not all bad, because he's certainly got some good pace. Maybe just needs to get a little bit more consistent, and with the 50-minute reverse grid race just after this one, still possible for him to nab a good result in this one. Thomas Dandridge P4, he's got Albin Kjellberg for company as they try and advance towards R.A.W.S for the podium places, and it's 3 Mercs, 3, 4 and 5. They're going to be trying to have a bit of a fight for this podium place, and again, between 4 and 5, between Dandridge and Kjellberg, might just be that mutual agreement to try and catch up onto the back of R.A.W.S, bit of a gap towards the 2 RSR cars of Alex Renger and Sean Campbell up in front. So maybe it really is just a fight for third for these guys, and they're going to have that mutual agreement just to try and get onto the back and launch the offence.
Well, there's certainly good. Oh dear, Kjellberg just wide there, very wide through that right-hander, right over the crest there, blind corner at Dingledale. And so it makes it very, in fact, exceptionally difficult indeed. Kjellberg though has been having a very good race so far in this one. Started dead last in the pro category at 13th position, already up inside the top 5. It's a commendable drive from him so far. Doesn't want to throw it away, as James Slates has been off the road here, possibly with Jorge Ferrer as well, because both of them have a bit of damage. It's Ferrer in the Audi behind, by the way, but what happens to Slates? He goes wide, spins straight in front of the Audi, and nothing that Jorge Ferrer could have done there.
Not at all. He really was just the passenger in James Slater's incident in that one. And yeah, again, such a shame. Who's that going off? I think that's one of the lap cars just moving out of the way for Stuart Reynolds, who's now managed to get himself up into P9. Or was that Chris Chatterton? I think it was Chris Chatterton. Maybe had a bit of an off. We're going to take a look as to what happened through Druids, and yeah, just got the car all sorts of wrong, and there goes Reynolds through, and yeah, very easily, again, an easy mistake to make, especially in an Audi, because again, those cars are very on edge and will spit you out. And again, around a circuit like Brands Hatch, it's proven to be really, really difficult. Here's Thomas Dandridge going off. I think this is on the run towards Sheen Curve. There goes Albin Kjellberg through in towards the right hander and in towards Sterling Bend. And yeah, that again is that's one of the things about Brands Hatch, is you have to be there to capitalise off incidents like that, and that's exactly what Albin Kjellberg has done. And now he's the one leading the offensive for the podium. And once again, James Slate's having an off.
Another one. You can be sure that the damage is not helping here. The Mercedes just throwing him off by going wide in front as well probably didn't help, but goes for a spin at turn 1. Be getting back going again. Lucky it's one of the easiest places to rejoin in the world, so you can be able to do it. This is Jamie Stott though, off out in the grass, and Slates will be able to go through, and Stott drops down to the final place in the AM category, and indeed the final running car out there on the circuit overall indeed as well. Liam Ahern though on the defensive right now from Michael Patterson on the defensive from Stuart Reynolds here at the moment. It's the battle for 8th place in the pro category right now, and Reynolds is going to be the overwhelming favourite to go through here because he is, of course, out of position after that spin earlier.
He is indeed. Is Patterman going to put up much of a defence against the Lamborghini? You would expect not, purely because of how much quicker Stuart Reynolds is and in towards Westfield. Has he got the run? It's a tricky corner to get alongside into, but if you're there and convincingly alongside, not quite. Michael Patterman soars around the outside to keep hold of P8, and of course Stuart Reynolds didn't quite have the legs, I think, to justify sending a move to the inside. Again, so easy because Westfield is a bend such that you just turn and you commit to a line, and once you've turned, you're committed, and there's not really much you can do after that. So I think Stuart Reynolds making the wise decision just to back out, and of course he's got the pace, not got the time really to be patient if he wants to recover and get a decent result. Of course he's got 4.5 seconds up to Liam Ahern, so if he wants to get up and claim a couple more places, he's going to need to get a move on quite soon.
Yes, the gaps are going to start to open, and they already have really. This is the only gap inside the top 10 to be less than a second, which makes Reynolds' life very much a more difficult one. James Costa in the battle inside the top 5. Reynolds looked like he gave it a go there into turn 2 actually, but he wasn't able to do it, and this is allowing Thomas Wright in his recovery to get back. Here it is. Reynolds got a nice run off turn 1, but he broke too late into turn 2, and in the end actually was saved by the Audi, because I think he might have been going at least for a half spin there if he wasn't nudged back in the right direction by Patterman. Easily,
and while he's got another run here to the right hand side in towards Hawthorne Bend, you really do need to be convincingly alongside. He has managed to get that run. Michael Patterman just tucks in behind Thomas Reiter as well in the background, just waiting to maybe pounce on these guys, and well, will certainly pounce if he gets the opportunity. But Stuart Reynolds is through, and you have to say that is a done deal for the Lamborghini. This is a fight between Dean Timms and Costa on that run towards Hawthorne Bend again, the BMW versus the Mercedes, and yeah, again heating up in the AM category. It is usually the AMs that gives us some good action. This is Michael Patterman just after being overtaken, that rhythm being knocked for him, and coming wide out of Starling's Bend. Managed to recover, not too drastic for him, but again a silly mistake.
Clipping the grass on the way in, he just well to avoid the barrier there actually, because the wall is very close indeed there at Stirling's Bend. And so, yeah, running into it is very easy to do indeed. This is Dean Timms, though, with a decent move through the field so far here in this race. It was a little bit lower than what you'd expect from him in qualifying, but he's right up there again now, just behind James Costa and Jeremy De Boyver at the moment in a battle for 3rd place in the race. In terms of the championship, De Boyver and Vanderbroek are actually 1 and 2 right now. So Vanderbroek is going to be gaining a few points on him here at the moment, a couple of points at least right now, to close that 9-point margin to a 7-point margin, although he goes around immediately as I said that. Timothy Vanderbroek, after looking like he was going to maybe benefit from all this, has gone around, and he's struggling here to rejoin with the length of this field.
Oh, that is such a shame for him as well. Bailey goes through, and Vanderbroek, after what was pretty commanding, I think you spoke a little bit too soon there, Ewan, and still a couple more drivers go through, Naval De Boyver and Goodsell for good measure, and that BMW is a little bit stricken as well with the damage, so he's going to have to nurse it either back to the pit lane or just bring it back in and retire from this race. But that'll be music to the ears of Jeremy De Boyver, who manages to, well, for now will provisionally get himself into the lead of the AM Championship. Ivo van der Linden did have a good hold for a good while, but him, after the last couple of races, being down into the likes of P5, P7 is a little bit unfortunate. We cut our attention back to the fight for the podium in the Pro. Albin Kjellberg on the back of Harry Wills in towards the Surtees left-hander and onto this back straight towards Hawthorne. Harry Wills certainly going to be on the defensive.
It's going to have to be. Kjellberg is having a great race here, starting from the back and maybe getting onto the podium places here in his Mercedes, fighting these two to get onto that last spot inside the podium. Harry Wills just in 5th place in this championship, ahead of Kjellberg, but I don't think that's a representative of where his pace is at the moment for Kjellberg, because he's scored 0 points in most of in at least one of the races in most of the rounds so far this season. As we look at James Slates once again having a miserable time. When it rains it pours, and it certainly is for Slates at the moment. But Kjellberg now, here he is, looking to maybe make his way through. Outside line into turn 1's going to be quite a brave one, and it will be difficult to see him going all the way around there, so he decides not to do it. He goes for the cutback, the over and under, and maybe the inside line into turn 2, but Harry Wills saw it coming. He got to the inside line in time, but he might just decide to go around the outside anyway. Kjellberg, will he stick his nose up the inside for turn 3? He's not quite able to do it.
No, not quite, but a great mutual respect between both drivers. On the run now towards Surtees. Defensive once more goes Harry Wills to the left-hand side. Kjellberg going to try and dance his way around the outside once more. He tried it at Druids, didn't quite work out for him. Not going to work now through Surtees. And now down this back straight towards Hawthorne, the right-hander, where he really has to get convincingly alongside. Has he got the slingshot with the slipstream? I think Harry Wills might just be able to stay ahead, or is Kjellberg going to once again try to go around the outside in that pink-coloured Mercedes? Going to get the under and over on the one towards Westfield. Not quite got the run, and Harry Wills still staying in front for the time being. What a race this is between the two Mercedes.
Turning into a great race and a great defence from Harry Wills here, just making sure the inside line is covered at all costs, at all opportunities and everywhere that he can do. So this is great defending at the moment. Meanwhile, Alex Urenga up front is just into the back of some lap traffic in the background. He's been off the roads. Oh, he's been for a huge moment. Wow! His life would have flashed before his eyes there, because that was a moment that so easily could have ended up with his car ruined in the wall.
Wow, that is a close call for Alex Urenga. An uncharacteristic mistake, it must be said. One that we really haven't seen so far this season, but that's allowed his teammate Sean Campbell to close the gap up to nearly less than a second. Still, this fight for P3 rages on between Harry Wills and Albin Kjellberg in towards Graham Hill turn 3 once more. And with the clock ticking down, the opportunities for Kjellberg to find a way through also with it. But yeah, Albin Kjellberg, that gap now less than a second between himself and his teammate. But luckily for Alex Urenga, the worst really he could have come off with there was P2, because the gap back to Harry Wills is around about 9 or so seconds. So he is just about safe. But now these two are starting to approach a bit of traffic. That again could either be the detriment or the blessing to Harry Wills.
And let's see. This field getting very sporadic. You can only imagine how the 50-minute race is going to be in terms of traffic. There's going to be cars all over the place. It's double the length of this race, of course, and we're still nearly 10 minutes to go here in this one. Over the top of the hill at Dingledale into Stirling's Bend now. Just Harry Wills it in front and really has this one under control just for the moment, especially compared to what we saw a couple of laps ago. Kjellberg all over him at every opportunity. A very good final corner once again from him here, and he's going to get the slipstream for what it's worth. Round into turn 1, and it's a late moment on the brakes. Harry Wills goes for the over and under. He's going to get back to the inside line for turn 2, as he almost always is. He squeezes Kjellberg right on the outside line. The two make a little bit of contact around the hairpin, but Kjellberg has managed to preserve the inside line into the next corner. The two of them get so close once again, but Harry Wills finally has to give up and surrender to what was looking inevitable for quite a few laps there.
Oh my word, what a valiant defence it was from Harry Wills, what a valiant offence it was from Albin Kjellberg to be able to get that move sealed. And yeah, wow, what a race it was between those two. Hopefully it's not just over yet and Harry Wills can find a second win to be able to close that gap back up. Again, James Slate's going off. I think it was Chatterton we heard in our rear that unfortunately has retired from this race. Have a look what happened to the Porsche in towards Druids Bend, and again just looping it round. Harry Wills, we're hearing as well, has gone off. We're going to cut back to the live action. He's now, I believe, falling into the clutches of Thomas Dandridge behind, and wow, that is such a shame. Going to take another look at it, and again in that desperation he's seeing the podium slip away from him. Can you expect a mistake like this to happen? But that was close.
If he touched that wall there, it would have been a monumental accident, but he just avoided it, and he will preserve 4th place at least, although he'll come under pressure from Thomas Dandridge behind. This is the view he got. He wouldn't have known how close that was, I would suspect, because see, it was all going on at the rear of the car, but wow, it was certainly close. And Harry Wills will count himself lucky that he's able to continue on with 4th place right now, albeit with a lot of pressure from Dandridge now.
It's going to be difficult for him again, but still, we are well and truly over halfway in this race, only around about 7 or so minutes left, and again with around about 1 minute 20 lap time, only a handful of laps left to go. So again, if he can put up a similar defence that he did to Kjellberg to Dandridge, then he should in theory be fine. But again, he's got the likes of Ethan Bass and more particularly Ethan Bass, because Stuart Reynolds is a little bit further back, but Ethan Bass looming in the background. So if he fights too hard, he might have the Ford GT for company again. The The gap still between the leaders hovering around about 0.8 of a second, so not at all big. But how much of an offensive can we see from Sean Campbell? Of course, between the two RSR cars, we haven't seen much in the way of fighting because cleverly they've opted to just whack together rather than fight it out amongst themselves. But again, still with an 11-second gap. Maybe Harry Wills once again having an off through Sterling, and that might invite Thomas Dandridge through and towards Clark.
Now he really is pushing the envelope and pushing his luck, you would argue, as well, with the runs out wide. Dandridge with a sort of half look down the inside, which is possibly the worst thing he could have done there. He needs to either commit to one or just stay behind for the run into turn one. This is Harry Wills just going out wide. It's not so much of a danger, that particular one anyway. Wasn't a particular danger in terms of him losing the car entirely. However, he very much could have lost fourth place. But as I said, Thomas Dandridge with that half look down the inside didn't help himself, as I'm afraid this is not the first time we've seen James Slates off the road here at this circuit today. He's been having a pretty miserable time out there. Just over 5 minutes to go then. I think at the line it's going to be 3 laps to go still. Harry Wills looks like he's struggling with this circuit more and more with every lap.
I mean, he's still got some good pace. It might just be the consistency that's, being the ball and chain wrapped around his ankles. And again, he just needs to maybe work on that, bring it back for the reverse grid race 2 in a few moments' time. This is a fight between Sastamorian and Dodd in towards Paddock Hill. This is the fight for P9 in the AM, and darting to the inside goes the green Mercedes, trying to find the gap really as Jarmo Sastamorian in towards Paddock Hill. The Ferrari breaks a little bit earlier, just tries to make sure he can hit the apex. Can the 36? Jarmo Sastamorian get underneath him in towards Druids. Is he brave enough on the brakes? Is Stuart Bailey going to try? Is Bailey going to try and go around the outside in that Mercedes? Not quite able to. And again, in that 3-car train, and there goes Bailey to the inside in towards Graham Hill. So again, in that 3-car train, being second place is so difficult, really, because you're having to look forwards and backwards.
And there it is for Dandridge. Gets through up into 4th place. Harry Wills down to 5th, and this is how it happened. Oh, it was off the road again for Harry Wills. There it is, just misses the apex entirely. Dandridge goes straight through with almost no argument. Ethan Bass is even going to fancy his chances here in that Ford GT to possibly get a top 5 here, because Harry Wills is struggling. I'm not sure really what it is, because he started off this race decently. He was running inside the podium places, but it is falling apart with every lap, and I'm not entirely sure why.
Could be, again, the mentality. He started off this race really well, had that confidence for the first half, and it's all come unravelled from it. It is just that negative feedback loop. As soon as one thing bad happens to you and it affects you, it then spirals into something even worse, and then into another thing, and then again has the same effect, which spirals into yet another thing that's a little bit bad. Or it could just be a fall off in pace. Maybe his tyres are going off, overheating just a little bit in that Mercedes, and again, around a circuit like Brands Hatch, that can have such a big effect where you rely so much on the grip of the tyres to carry you around this circuit, and that could explain the pace deficit. Maybe it's just a couple of clumsy mistakes creeping in for Harry Wills, which again, as I say, have a knock-on effect. But still fighting Simon Dodd, Mark Bailey and Jarmo Sastamorian for P9 in the AMS.
The battles in the AMS have been for those positions a little bit further down, the ones up front, especially with Ashraf El Haddad at the front, going all his way. Although Dean Timms has been on a march of his own, Jeremy De Boyver's back down to 3rd again now, because of Dean Timms, basically. Oh, and De Boyver's going to be further down now. He's into the wall, the championship leader, after looking like he was going to gain points on Vanderbroek, who went off the road earlier. Now Jeremy De Boyver goes off the road, with Harry Wills also going for a spin at turn 2. A couple of big moments here in the final 3 minutes of this race, especially though for Jeremy De Boyver there. This is Navarro De Boyver going off at turn 1 in a fateful bit of symmetry. It's actually into turn 2, just getting onto the grass ever so slightly and going for a spin, but the lead of this championship, looking like he was going to gain points to Boyver off. This is how Harry Wills went off, and it looks like a very similar incident, although actually he's just not on the grass this time, just losing the rear for almost no reason.
Such a shame, and it's been a race to forget really for our two championship leaders. And again, in moments like these for Jeremy De Boyver, it's times like these where you really have to capitalise, and that is so easy to do through such a corner. But again, if you're going to deal with the stress and the pressure of a championship, you cannot be letting mistakes like that creep in. I think he's managed to rejoin still in front of his championship rival, but still, it could have been more points gained. And that is what's going to be the burden really for De Boyver, and that is really is a shame for him to. And again, it's so close to the end as well. He didn't have much further to go, and it's mistakes like that really do hurt.
Certainly do. And Harry Wills is into the pit lane now with that little bit of damage on his car. Now, I said earlier the amount of laps we're going to have to go. I think we're still going to have one at the line here for Alex Urenga, but we'll see. This is Simon Dodd just in ninth position. About another car off the road in front of them. Not entirely sure who that was. It wasn't someone in the AM category, or not even in the not on the lead lap. Anyway, it was James Straits a little bit further down. We've seen off the road quite a few times already here in this race, but this championship is going to be pretty much turned on its head here in the AM category. Dean Timms is going to gain a lot of points on both De Boyver and Vanderbroek at this stage, because Ivo Linden's not here. I don't know, even Ivo Linden's going to gain some points, but not having the best race at the moment. So it's all going to close up here once again in the AM category, and it's turning into an absolutely fantastic kind of championship battle in the AM category as we get the final lap now with Alex Urenga.
He's only got one more lap left to negotiate and has managed to build that gap to his teammate Sean Campbell up to around about 1.6 seconds. So has got a healthy buffer on this final lap just to bring it home really for what is going to be yet another win. I think 7 out of 9 so far this season has been a man on such incredible form. But yeah, as you quite rightly say, we're nearly halfway through the season. Today we'll mark it, and already we're seeing such a close championship battle, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it can continue for the remainder of the season and throughout some of the fantastic circuits that we have got on offer. But yeah, again, so close, and it's moments like that you, again, as I was saying at the start of the broadcast, you look back in hindsight and you look back with regret and wishing you could have just done a little bit better.
Certainly do. This is Alex Urenga though, into the final few corners. One more lap car for him to negotiate, and his teammate Sean Campbell not too far behind him. But in the end, he's going to conquer all once again. There's only been 2 races so far this season that Alex Urenga hasn't won in the EU Series. The other 7 have gone to him. Over the line once again here at Brands Hatch, and the first race of the day is going to go to him ahead of his teammate Sean Campbell. The 2 remaining, 1 and 2 in this championship. Arguably the drive of the race going to Albin Kjellberg, because he comes from 13th, gets up to a podium place. Ashraf El Haddad has had similar dominance here in the AM category today to Alex Urenga's pro victory, not in terms of a whole season's reach, but El Haddad has had a great race here with this one. He's going to get and hold off Dean Timms by the looks of things in these final few laps. Going up towards the line now, Tim's going to push him all the way and may well push the boundaries in the reverse grid race coming up a little bit later on. But Ashraf El Haddad is going to take his first race victory in the AM category here in Season 3. And there it is, over the line, just ahead of Dean Timms and James Costa. Very good race indeed at Brands Hatch. It's setting us up nicely for what we're going to see in the reverse grid race. Especially pleased, though, from the neutral point of view, that the AM category is just going to get closer once again.
Yeah, no bias at all between the 2 categories, but the GT3 AMs, both fields really can give us some fantastic action. It is usually race 2 that brings more action, of course, you'd expect so with the reverse grid nature, but also with how we double the amount of time. We go from 25 to 50 minutes, and while race 1 really has set the bar high, so a lot to expect really for race 2, and well, a lot to decide, and maybe, hopefully, for the likes of Jeremy De Boyver, he can maybe claw back and try and bring those results back in.
Absolutely. We'll get those race results up for you as soon as possible. Somebody's trying to get photo bombers. But Ashraf El Haddad wins the GT3 AM category there. It was fairly close in the end. Dean Timms pushing him all the way, but couldn't quite get there. James Costa rounding out the podium. Thomas Pugh and Ivo Linden were inside the top 5, and importantly ahead of some of his championship rivals there. David Camano gets ahead of championship leader Jeremy De Boyver after that spin. Simon Dodd gets in front of Dirk Bast and Jarmo Sastamoinen, the final cars on the lead lap. Timo McKeon and Timothy Vanderbroek, after spinning out earlier in the race, finishes all the way down in 12th. Not good for a championship contender, I'm afraid. Werner S gets from the back of the field to 13th. Vladimir Halibay, roughly where he started, in 14th. Jorge Ferrer was in 15th after that contact with Kurt Hugh Jensen in 16th. Dominic Goodsell, the final driver, 1 lap down. Mark Bailey in that 18th position was 2 laps down, just ahead of Navarro De Boyver, as well as Didier Vamink. James Slates and Jamie Stott as well. In the pro category, it was Alex Urenga, of course. That's second in the end to his teammate Sean Campbell. Albin Sjælberg was third ahead of Thomas Dandridge and Ethan Bass in the Ford in the top 5. Stuart Reynolds couldn't quite recover to that position after his early problems. Neither could Thomas Reiter. Liam Ahern was 8th ahead of Michael Patton, and Harry Wills ended up 10th despite his issues as the race went on. Jonas Dreher was lapped down by the end, so was Chris Chatterton and Taylor Lane. They'll be starting towards the front for the reverse grid race. We're going to take a break in a couple of moments here, Zach, but yeah, 50-minute race coming up, as well as the reverse grid, which always makes things interesting, but I think this is actually going to be one of, if not the most difficult reverse grid races so far because of the way this circuit is.
It really will. We saw in race 1 how difficult it can be to overtake. Still possible, of course. We saw with the fight between Kjellberg and Harry Wills and how close those two were. But again, the margin for error, the margin for error really was so small. I think we're going to grab a chat with one of our drivers, Simon Dodd, once more. We had a chat with him off the back of Imola. But again, in towards race 2, it's patience and consistency really are going to be the attributes that are awarded today.
They certainly are. Let's have a quick chat to Simon Dodd then now as we bring him in. Welcome, Simon, to the commentary booth. Brands Hatch, of course, has brought you in 8th place so far in the AM category, and you're pleased with your opening 25 minutes of racing here tonight?
Definitely, considering going into this race I was woefully underprepared and massively off the pace. I wasn't expecting a top 10 finish at all, and then had a couple of good battles all the way along. A couple of people fell off in front of me, which gave me a few freebies. And then into the last corner, it was Dirk Boots ahead of me. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, so apologies if that's incorrect. But yeah, I just got a good run out of, is it Sterling, the left-hander, before the final corner?
Yep.
Yeah, oh wow, I'm getting good at these corner names, aren't I? Yeah, got a good run out of that, and then just didn't quite do him in the braking zone into the final corner, and then just dropped down an extra gear actually as we came side by side around the last corner, and just about got him by probably less than a tenth in the end. I'm not sure how much the gap was, but yeah, that was a good end to a race, that one, I think, for me.
Certainly, and we're obviously moving forward to a race double the length, 50 minutes, but reverse grid as well. How do you think that's going to be around here compared to some of the others? Because it's such a narrow circuit and difficult circuit on your own. I can only imagine it's going to be really difficult in a reverse grid race.
The thing I'm concerned about is, because it's such a much longer race, we're going to have the pro cars coming through to lap us, which is going to add another mix into it. I think they're definitely going to lap us once, maybe even twice. I don't know. It's going to be intriguing. That's going to be the one to battle with, I think. So I think pit stop strategy may come into it, and sort of if you can get it timed right and your pit window's open to pit just as the pros are coming through, that's probably what I'm going to do. Not trying to give away all of my secrets, but if it works, then it works. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, let's see. We'll let you go though now and prepare, of course, for the second race coming up tonight, Simon. Good luck with that, and yeah, we'll see you out there.
Marvellous. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy the rest of the racing.
Thanks very much. Simon Dodd there, 8th place in the opening race of the day. And we'll be looking forward to see how he gets on. We're going to take a quick break now, though, here at World Series Leagues. We'll be back in a few moments' time for race 2 here at Brands Hatch in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship. Stay with us. Reverse grid race coming up soon. Welcome back to Brands Hatch for the second race in round 5 of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship EU. We've already had one 25-minute race. We've got double the distance, reversed the grid, and we're going once again around this famous Great British Race Circuit. Let's have a look quickly at the standings and how they have changed before this race. These are the Pro ones, with Alex Yarenga extending that championship lead by 3 points to 21 now, ahead of Sean Campbell, who really just needs to start beating him in some of these races if he wants to have a chance at this title, especially in the second half of this season. Going with the AM standings here as well, we were right to predict that things are getting a lot closer, because Timothy van der Broek has dropped to 4th in the standings. He's still only 14 points back, but 2 drivers have slotted in between himself and Jeremy de Boyver, with Dean Timms and Ivo Linden in there now, and Ashraf El Haddad there in 5th, only 17 points back at the moment as well. The AM category still one really to watch here as this race goes on. But starting with the Pro category, Zach, I mean, as I said, Sean Campbell really has to start beating Alex Yarenga, if not winning races at this point, because that gap is already getting a little bit too big if he still wants to win this championship.
Yeah, he's going to need to start piling on some good results. And again, he's got that break week between now and round 6, just to maybe recollect himself, get some practice in, and come back with a fresh mind. And that's going to be ever crucial if he does want to mount that championship charge. Because, yeah, again, we're only halfway through the season. That second half is going to be just even more important than this first. He's got a good bank of points. He's maybe minimised the gap as much as he can. Now it's just crunch time to push and try and get after his teammate. But again, in terms of the team championship, they don't want to fight too hard, because maybe for them that's probably the aim, and to secure 1-2 in the championship. Either way around, I'm maybe sure they don't particularly mind. But from a competitive standpoint, you know, Sean Campbell as a racing driver will want to win.
I love how, by the way, on that graphic that Kent is a city there, and that's great.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've not been to it. But yeah. Anyway, just to confuse the people who are not from the UK even more. So yeah, there we are. But anyway, it's just a small note. I mean, to go to the AM category as well here, because that's also very exciting indeed. I mean, what we've just seen there with Van der Broek losing 2 places, basically down to 1 spin, might well all turn on its head here, because let's not forget, he only finished 12th in the last race, and it's roughly 22. He'll be starting in the top 10, and I think he'll be one of the only, if not the only, of the top 5 in the championship to start inside the top 10, and that's going to be an advantage for him.
The pendulum can swing one way and then quickly swing at the other in terms of both luck and in this championship, because you know you've got to have both luck and skill in order to secure a championship. And of course, with the race being slightly longer, it does award slightly more points, 50 for a win compared to 40, and it is really mounting up to be such a close championship amongst the AMs. And I think we said 5 people were within 17 points of the championship lead, and after the first half of the season, still the other half to go, as we say. That is very close, and a lot really to look forward to.
Definitely is. Starting, of course, in 2 weeks' time with another UK circuit, Donington Park, which will be interesting as well. But very different to Brands Hatch all at the same time. Not too far away, though, from the start of race 2 here at Brands Hatch. Just the warm-up session going on right now. The grid has already been set. It's been reversed, and we'll be ready to go racing once again very shortly when this warm-up session ends in a few moments' time. The drivers just getting themselves warmed up that little bit. Once again, just 2 minutes to go here in this session before we get going once again for another race of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship in the EU. Just to update you as well as to what's coming here at the World Series Leagues. We've got another 2 races here at Brands Hatch coming up after this here tonight. About 4 hours from now, we'll be going live with the US series of this championship, where Alex Yarenga will be once again competing and looking to win some more. And it's going to be very difficult to stop him from doing that. As Zach briefly mentioned there, no racing next week on the Wednesday night for the World Series Leagues. However, we do have at the next weekend, not this weekend coming, but the weekend after, the 4 hours of Monza in the World Series Leagues Endurance Championship. So that will be one to look forward to. Saturday at 8 PM in Europe, 7 PM in the UK. and convert that to your local time zone at home. And that's when we'll be starting the 4 hours of Monza for the WSEC. So make sure you join us for that as well. Plenty of racing coming up. But for now, the focus will be on the reverse grid here at Brands Hatch, and the focus will be on how you can, on earth, you can overtake cars around here at Brands Hatch, because it's so twisty, so difficult on your own, so narrow. It can be difficult to make these moves. However, the one saving grace everybody's got is the fact that the car in front is seems closer to a mistake than we've seen all season long. We've seen a lot of single car mistakes in that opening race.
The key attributes, as I said before the break, are going to be consistency and patience. Just being able to negotiate your way through, keep your nose out of trouble, and then naturally you would expect other cars in front of you to make mistakes, crashes to happen, and that's then when you can capitalise. You're not in any rush. You've got 50 minutes to try and work your way through the field if you're the likes of R.A.W.S or Sean Campbell. Be patient, find the gap, pick your way through, pick a key opportune moment to find that gap, and then just go through and go with it. But of course we saw in race 1 how possible overtaking is. Yes, it's tight and twisty and the margin for error is slim. You can still have a good bit of side-by-side action, as we saw with Albin Kjellberg and R.A.W.S in race 1. So again, it's looking promising for race 2.
Let's have a look then at this starting grid. Chris Cheltenham will be on the pole alongside Jonas Dreher. Then it will be R.A.W.S. Dangerous for him to be starting in third place, because he's got a very good shot at winning this race, and Michael Patterman alongside him. Liam O'Hearn will round out the top 5 alongside Thomas Reiter. Then it was Stuart Reynolds, maybe a little bit higher up than he deserved to be in terms of pace, with 7th there. Ethan Bass, after that top 5 in the Ford, gets 8th as the starting position ahead of Thomas Dandridge, and Albin Kjellberg, who did so well to get through the field already once tonight. He's got double the time to do it once again here, with Sean Campbell and Alex Urenga making up an all RSR row 6. James Slates will be on the pole position for the AM drivers alongside Navarro de Boiva. Then it'll be Didier de Vlaminck in the third place, Mark Bailey in 4th. Dominic Goodsell will be 5th ahead of Kurt Hau Jensen. Then it'll be Jorge Ferrer and Vladimir Halibay, with Werner S and Timothy Vanderbroek on that 5th row. That is a dangerous row indeed, and very, very exciting to see where they end up here in this race. It will be Jarmo Sastamoinen and Timo McKeown on the next row, with Dirk Butts and Simon Dodd behind them. Jeremy De Boiva all the way down in 15th. David Kamano 16th. Ivo Linden, another championship contender, 17th for him, ahead of Thomas Pugh. James Costa, Dean Timms and Ashraf Haddad round out the 21 car AM grid. Once again, it's a very, very large grid indeed, although we are down to 33. We have lost a couple of drivers, unfortunately, on that first race that won't be participating in the second. However, it's still a big grid, and as Simon Dodge sort of feared, actually, the pro cars are going to be lapping the AM cars here in this race.
That is going to be the more than likely scenario. Of course, we saw a bit of traffic in race 1, more down to incidents and cars being out of place more than anything. But yeah, in this race, there's going to be potentially a lot of traffic to contend with. Not something we really talk about in terms of these sort of sprint-style formats in terms of lap traffic. But when you've got 2 categories of different skill levels between the pros and the AMs, that is to be expected. And probably around, I'm going to guess, one of the more tricky circuits to get traffic over and done with is Brands Hatch, because again, you've not got much room to negotiate them through, and if you do go offline, you do lose quite a substantial bit of time. So it's going to be that case of when the traffic approaches you, how you can negotiate it through, and that's really where experience will come through to fruition and pay dividends.
Let's see who indeed has it as the pro drivers make their way up through Dingledale and towards the start-finish line, and Chris Chatterton will be deciding how on earth he's going to start this race and how on earth he's possibly going to hold on to what would be a surprise victory. He's not got long to wait now, and speaking of long to wait, Alex Urenga made everybody wait a very long time in his launching of the field in the first race. Pretty much all the way to the end of the straight before he finally decided to go. Now it's Chris Chatterton's turn. Will he shake it up by going early? Will he do the same, or will he go somewhere in the middle? Let's find out as the Audi driver just takes control of this field now. And we'll wait. Going down the front straight now. A few trying to get the jump in the back, including Campbell and Urenga. And just on the dip of the straight there, Chris Chatterton goes, and gets a call up immediately from Jonas Dreyer, although misses the apex into turn 1 slightly, and it backs the field all up there in the Pro category with Mercedes all onto the Audi at the front. It's nice and clean for everybody. Urenga and Campbell already trying to make up places. Urenga goes round the outside of Dandridge and Campbell. He makes his way through, and great avoidance of Ethan Bass, who goes around in the Ford.
Oh my word, what a start that was as the AMs now get themselves underway side by side between Dede Flamenig and Bailey in towards Druids Corner for the first time. A steady lead for James Slates at the moment. The number 7 looking to the inside, but Mark Bailey soars around the outside. Here's Albin Kjellberg trying to keep Thomas Dandridge and Sean Campbell at bay in towards Surtees, looking to go around the outside again, just drifting a little bit wide. Cold tyres and yeah, offline, not really the way to go. And a pretty scruffy start amongst the pros to get themselves underway, but again an impressive start for Alex Urenga, already now up into P8.
A really good start from the championship leader, looking to go 8 or get 8 wins in the first 10 races here this season. It will be a remarkable record as Ashraf Haddad and Jeremy De Boyver both off the road here. The two of them were in a side-by-side battle. De Boyver immediately dropped into the back here. There's contact between the two, is there? There it is. Now, is that Navarro De Boyver or Jeremy De Boyver there? It is Jeremy De Boyver, the championship leader, getting into contact with one of his rivals. That's going to be a much argued about incident, as Simon Dodd has gone off the road somewhere as well. Oh, Thomas Pugh as well. It's all kicked off in the AM category.
Oh my word, it is just guns a-blazing for everyone at the moment as Albin Kjellberg makes contact potentially with Liam Lahern through Druids Corner, maybe just trying to avoid the stray Mercedes, and through Graham Hill, Dreyer still leads Harry Wills by around about 0.8 of a second. But yeah, it really is just all kicking off. Everyone trying to settle into a rhythm, everyone trying to find their way through and settle in to this race. And Albin Kjellberg once again through Surtees, luckily somehow has managed to avoid the barrier. Of course, loses the top 10 to Liam Ahern, but oh my word, clipping the curb on the inside, that sends him out a little bit wide over the grass. A bit of a bump over the curb, and that just unsettles the car enough to send it skewing towards the barrier. But impressive car control to keep it pointing the right way there.
The second, oh, he's going to straight, goes off from the lead of the race. It's all kicking off at the moment at Brands Hatch, and more positions for everybody. Thomas Dandridge goes down the inside, so does Sean Campbell, and they'll make their way up into 6th and 7th by the looks of things. But my goodness me, leading seems to be a little bit of a curse at the moment here in this race. Jonas Dreyer has gone off. Chris Chatterton lost a few places from the lead earlier on, and now Dreyer has gone off in a bigger way on the outside of Dingledale there, into the grass ever so slightly, and Harry Wills ever so slightly got through there. The margins were very fine indeed, but he's got the lead now.
That was so close for Harry Wills, just inch, probably an inch further forward, and he would have made contact with Jonas Dreyer there. And again, fine margins proving in race 2 already. Mark Bailey still on the defensive from James Slates, in fact has managed to get himself into the race lead in the GT3 AM category. The Porsche, who didn't have much luck in race 1, has fallen victim to Mark Bailey and fallen down to P2. He's got Dede Vlaminck for company, who heads well, just a massive train of cars behind, I think down to around about P9 of Jarmo Sastimoinen, 3.7 seconds back off the race lead. It's a huge train, and well, when it's this big, anything can happen really.
Yeah, it's a lot longer of a road through for the AM drivers, because there's so many of them, as Kurt Jensen goes off the road for a spin at the left-hander of turn 4. He's going to have to wait a long time to get going again, and there's the final car. He will rejoin in 21st position. A costly spin for him there. It's a little bit less hectic up here at the front of the GT3 Pro category. Harry Wills leading. He's already going to be wondering, can I hold on to this win? Because Alex Urenga is already up to 4th place, and he's going to be chasing Wills down. And he'll know that Wills didn't have a great second half of the race in that first one, so he might be able to capitalise on that.
Just where patience is going to come into it, Alex Urenga will probably know, modesty aside, he'll know in his own confidence that he's one of the quickest, well, probably arguably the quickest of the field. He will know that Harry Wills will maybe start to drop off, and then the race will come to him. He doesn't need to do anything drastic in terms of trying to close that gap, as it has been the theme for Alex Urenga in race 2, having to close the gap to people in front. But again, just keep his nerve and try and stay on it. Navarro De Boyver, Jeremy De Boyver's son, having a fight with Timothy van der Broek for P4 in the GT3 AMs in towards 30s, falling down to P5 at the moment. But again, he hasn't boasted as much success as his father, Jeremy De Boyver, but still holding strong for P5 at the moment.
I forgot what relation they were, but there we are. Two De Boyvers out there at opposite ends at the moment, side by side between Thomas Dandridge and Jonas Dreyer through the penultimate corner of the racetrack, but Dandridge prevails in that one. Jonas Dreyer has not continued to go backwards after that big spin for him there. He's gotten going and maintained a good pace there in this one, so that's encouraging news for him, as off the road, that is Navarro De Boyver. He'll at least give some points to Jeremy De Boyver, but that's about the only consolation he can take from this spin at the top of the hill.
That is a carbon copy of some mistakes that we've seen already. I think it was Timothy van der Broek or Jeremy De Boyver a little bit earlier on in race one. Here's Stuart Reynolds going round. I think that's Kjellberg being tagged round as well on the exit of Graham Hill. Everyone darting in avoidance. The likes of Jonas Dreyer and Liam O'Hearn pulling his way back onto circuit. That is dodgy. As annoyed as you potentially are at Stuart Reynolds, that is, yeah, not the best rejoin in the world for the BWT Mercedes. And again, so easily done is that mistake, but yeah, you just again, the desperation of trying to get back onto the circuit, but you still have to just take a little bit of caution. But again, Stuart Reynolds, we're seeing how difficult Brands Hatch really is.
There's the clip of the grass. Stuart Reynolds, now does he rejoin? Oh well, he's on the racing line, but there's not many places he can go from there, and there's the contact. Kjellberg goes around. I'm not sure whether this was actually in retaliation to Stuart Reynolds or whether he just wanted to rejoin as quickly as possible and thought there was an opportunity there, but either way it's not good. Whichever way he was wide there, so either way he might find himself in a bit of trouble for that. And now he does go into the pit lane, Kjellberg, and that might be the end of his day, I'm afraid. This is what's happened to Halliby. A bit further down in the BMW, off the road in the gravel. Oh, and he couldn't catch it. A big hit into the wall, but thankfully stays off the racing line there. And the whole field seemingly will go by him.
That is a shame. Tried to keep the foot in and following the philosophy that Harry Wills had in race one of just if in doubt, flat out. But unfortunately for him, didn't quite work on this occasion. We look back into the AM, and James Slade's falling victim to Timothy van der Broek, who after trying to recover from race one is pushing forwards in this field when his championship rivals, the likes of Jeremy De Boyver, are a little bit further down. So again, he's making the most of these opportunities, taking it with both hands and trying to push forward. Only 3 seconds off the race lead as well. So this would be a stellar recovery if he can get onto the back of David Lamanick and Mark Bailey soon.
We'll see if that happens indeed. Chris Chadderton has got his hands full at the moment with Thomas Dandridge and Jonas Dreyer just up in front. These guys have all gained one position recently, of course, because of the spin for Stuart Reynolds. We may well be seeing him a bit later on, but that was a great final corner there from Dandridge, who's going to be right alongside Chatterton, who barely gives the room. He was almost too focused on his own racing line there to defend the inside line, but he finally does now, and he will hold on to the place, although Dandridge was looking to go for the over and under, get that inside for turn two and go through, although he's not been able to. He got his nose alongside, but nothing more than that. Chatterton will hold on. But his fall through the field looks inevitable, and it's continuing as there's another cutback into turn four this time. Dandridge breaks late, and surely now this is the moment. Inside line, Jonas Dreyer is going to try and follow him through.
Clever, just opportune moments there for Jonas Dreyer, trying to follow the gap through that Dandridge tried to force open, but once more Chris Chatterton trying to put the offensive back on in that Audi to the outside of Hawthorne Bend, not quite able to. Has he got the under and over, or over and under more so, in towards Westfield, not quite close enough. And now Liam O'Hearn is also joining this 4-car train for P5. I think Dandridge has managed to get the legs and get in front, and this is how it got done. To the inside of Surtees, and there's, you can see Jonas Dreyer trying to follow him through, but again got pinched in. I think Thomas Dandridge tried to park it on the apex to stop the cutback, and in doing so Jonas Dreyer had to slam on the anchors, and that killed his run. But again, still very, very close amongst the lot of them, and Chris Chatterton still holding back 2 cars, and I have to say it might be a matter of when as opposed to an if Jonas Dreyer tries to eye up a move.
I think it is, and it might well be with Liam O'Hearn as well, who's benefiting from this fight. When they start fighting, of course, a lot of them slow down, and O'Hearn is gaining massively on them. Here's Vernon Ace inside the top 10, and Ivo Linden, also one of the championship contenders, is inside the top 10 at the moment. Great news for him in the BMW. Not good news for Navarro de Boiver, I'm afraid, because he's off the road at turn 4, and he's been off previous to this because that car is going about 45 degrees the wrong way.
That car, oh wow, that car was worse where you have to say it was inevitable that he would spin. Ethan Bass as well in the Ford GT, come to blows on lap 1 off the exit of turn 2, and he's going to maybe do a similar mistake, or is it through Paddock Hill? It is indeed a similar mistake we saw a little bit earlier on of just trying to keep your foot in. And unfortunately for him, it didn't work, and well, he's decided to opt out of this race. And that is a shame, because in the Ford GT, he's had a respectable run of form in terms of his pace and his finishing positions, and it is a shame for him to be out of this race. But of course, with a slightly smaller GT3 Pro grid, he's not going to be losing out as many points, so I guess that is sort of a blessing in disguise. Not much, it's not going to pay off the massive shame that it is that he's unfortunately out of this race, but that's racing, that's how things go sometimes.
Unfortunately how it has gone for Ethan Bass. It was a top 5, of course, in the first part of this race. It's probably not going to be a top 5 in the second race, unfortunately for him. He will try and get back in the race, I think. This is Thomas Reiter, though, trying to hold on to second place now from Alex Urenga, who's nearly completed his run to the front of the field. It's only just taken him over 10 minutes to get here, and now he's looking at second place. Is it going to be an 8th win of the season? Quite possibly. The odds are looking stacked in his favour. In the slipstream of the Audi, it would be brave to look up the inside of Hawthorne's Bend, but this move is definitely on its way.
Yeah, Ali Urenga really is a charging bull, seeing red of the back of that Audi, and of course we'll potentially soon see red in the form of the Mercedes of Harry Wills a little bit further up. But Harry Wills doing what he needs to do. We saw a little bit earlier on how he's maybe pushing just a little bit too hard at early doors, but I think he's sort of settled into a rhythm, trying to find some good pace that he can run comfortably at. Built that gap up to around about 3 seconds, but 3 seconds to Alex Urenga with what now 48 minutes left to go is. Yeah, you can close that in a heartbeat, or well, you would expect so anyway. That battle is going to rage on. We're going to cut our attention back to the AMS. This fight amongst the midfield, Simon Dodd keeping himself inside the top 10, and we're getting word that this is an 8-car train now. So again, Slipstream keeping it very, very close indeed.
It is very, very large, this train indeed. Ivo Linden has gained 2 places away from our cameras while we were looking at the pros. As off the road, that's James Costa, who got a podium in the first race. He drops down to 15th now behind the pole sitter on this race, James Slates. They're in 14th. So this is a huge train now, and there's a lot on the line here because Ivo Linden is here, so is Ashraf El Haddad. We've also got Jeremy De Boiver just off the back of this train as well. But Dean Timms has managed to fight his way all the way through. He got second in the first race, of course. He's already up to 4th here. He's not that far behind Vanderbroek. So in terms of the championship, Dean Timms is certainly the big winner from this race, at least in the first quarter of an hour.
He is indeed. He's managed to make up some good progress, and of course Vanderbroek doing the best job possible to minimise that gap is again just maybe going to fall short and only gain a little bit. A pretty textbook move there for Alex Urenga to get himself up into second place ahead of Thomas Reiter in towards Paddock Hill, and that really wasn't hard fought by Thomas Reiter at all. We cut our attention back to this fight in the AMS. Dominic Goodsell getting himself ahead of Thomas Pugh for P11, now trying to press forward and get after Simon Dodd, who quite understandably so in some clear areas managed to bridge away from this pack of cars. And that is the thing, you want to head this train, not fall victim to the pack of cars behind, and try and press forward, because it does pay off, because everyone behind you then starts the battle, and you can really push a good gap and get away from just being in that danger zone of so many cars around you.
It's a great line there from Pugh, and he'll be making his way through quite easily there on Goodsell, who's going to get rolled by Al Haddad as well if he's not careful. Side by side through this section is not easy though, as James Costa's doing that in the background as well. He's up the inside, and though James Slates just slots in there rather smartly. Inside line for El Haddad, oh dearie me, and there's contact at the penultimate corner. El Haddad could very much find himself in trouble for that, and he's going to lose out on a few places as a result of it. It was a latish move that it was kind of on, but there was always going to be contact there, and El Haddad is certainly at fault by the looks of that one, but it might well be different when we look at the replay. We'll of course try and find out, but that battle is so interesting at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunate for our race one race winner in the form of Ashraf El-Haddad in towards Sterling. It's not a corner you can really just send your nose to the inside because again you're actually carrying quite a bit of speed. It's quite a tight corner to the left, nearly 90 degrees, and he is alongside, but again you can't blame the Lamborghini for just taking his line and committing to it. And yeah, again I say it's more one of those things, but again, more so to blame for El-Haddad just trying to maybe in a bit of desperation. It's only a fight really for the lower down places. You don't need to make moves, like that in such desperation. You've got time to try and pick your way through.
I think obviously it was a tight line that El-Haddad was going into, but I still think that move was the Lamborghini on the outside there just took the racing line as if there was nobody on the inside there, going straight for the apex. When you're on the outside of a car, I don't think you can do that. So El-Haddad not really too much to blame, at least for me, on that one, I don't think. Either way, we'll let the stewards argue about it. As Sean Campbell makes his way go around the outside and goes into third place now ahead of Thomas Reiter. The pros will be ones to come back to later because all the action's back in the AMs, and I'm afraid James Slates was having a good run, but I'm afraid it's a spin and it's all started down at turn number 1 back in the gravel. This is where he lost a lot of places. And then the move was really sealed at the final corner. Sorry, not the final corner, the penultimate corner. A little bit later in the lap, unless there was another issue on top of that as well. And when you start spinning with these tyres, they get so hot, and you can just never cool them down again.
Yeah, it is just that, again, as I was saying in race one, that negative feedback loop. You spin, they get hot, you spin, they get hot, and there's just that endless cycle of just misery really for some of these drivers. It's so difficult to cool them back down unless you really back off, and of course as a racing driver you don't want to do that, especially when you're locked in such a close fight as he was in that field of the GT3 AMs, and that is such a shame for James Slates, who really did have a good start to this race. Fell back a little bit, but Harry Wills now I think feeling the pressure. Alex Renga on that last lap 6/10 quicker than Harry Wills. Our race through that gap now nearly less than a second, and that Lamborghini is closing at a rate of knots. I don't know how much longer Harry Wills can hang on to this.
Yeah, very wide at turn 4 there for Harry Wills, right around the outside, and he's going to have a big job defending from Alex Urenga, and he's got over half an hour to do it. The problem he's got as well is that there'll be a pit stop cycle within that as well, so even if Urenga can't find his way through here on the road, which may well happen because it is such a difficult circuit to overtake at, he can just play the pit stop game and go through on him in that way. There's 2 opportunities for Urenga here, and surely the odds are stacked in his favour of him at least getting one of those right and going through in that way. And the lap cars might be the only saviour for Harry Wills, but even then I don't think they can save him for a whole half an hour and more.
Yeah, it's increasingly unlikely for Harry Wills to hang on to this one. Of course, it is sim racing, it's motor racing, it's stranger things have happened, but notoriously, as you say, with the pit strategy, Alex Urenga pretty much all season long without failure has gone longer in the pit stop cycle, saving a bit of fuel at early doors because he can. He's in the field, he's losing time anyway. What's a little bit more just to save some fuel, goes longer, has less of a stationary stop because he's got less fuel to fill up, and then gains a lot of time in that pit stop strategy. And of course, if he can get some clear air compared to Harry Wills, he will probably catapult himself up in front, because those last couple of laps, 1.5 seconds overall in 2 laps is absolutely huge. So yeah, Alex Urenga he's got all the odds on his side, but Harry Wills, again, I think maybe for Harry Wills, he should know in his mind that it's inevitable that Alex Urenga is going to get through. Maybe for him the case is more, this is a race for second place, trying to keep that secure and get that one in the bag.
Just trying to do the best he can at this stage. 2 of them are going to look like they're going to continue this fight just for the moment though. In the AMS, it's Mark Bailey who's currently leading. DJ Vlaming has gotten caught by Timothy van der Broek, and Ian Timms is not too far away in that fight for second position. Simon Dodd, Thomas Pugh and James Costa also fighting, but there's some very small gaps from Jarmo Sastamoinen all the way down to Ashraf El-Haddad, really, down in that 13th place. It is very, very competitive in the AM category at the moment as Liam Ahern goes off the run, I think that is, and Stuart Reynolds goes through. The final corner is not somewhere we're seeing anyone go off just yet, but the grass being right on the outside there means that if you dip one wheel off, then you'll either spin or just get dragged off and dragged out wide.
you really will. It is, you really will just become a passenger. As soon as you get one wheel off, the car just says, nah mate, I'm not doing this at all, and we'll just sail off straight. That's why you have to minimise the distance as much as you can through Clark down the pit straight. Still, I think Stuart Reynolds and Liam Ahern fighting for 6th place at the moment. We cut our attention to the fight for the race lead. Harry Wills pushing the limits on the exit of Westfield towards Dingledale and Sheen. Ali Sharenga now breathing down his neck in this fight for P1, and well, Ali Sharenga, he's got time, he knows he's quicker, he can just wait maybe for the mistake, wait for just that prime opportune moment to find a way through, and you have to expect it is going to be coming soon as Harry Wills tries to park it in the middle of the circuit to keep Ali Sharenga at bay, but again, that Lamborghini, he's going to find a way through sooner rather than later.
Or is he just going to wait for the pit stops here? Well, it doesn't look like it. He's going to go for it on the track. Switches to the inside line into turn number 1. Lays on the brakes for the Lamborghini. And he goes back to the lead, as Alex Sharenga has been for so much of this season so far. Although Harry Wills is not letting him away with this one just as easily. Up the inside into the hairpin is good effort, but it's not going to work. Harry Wills goes through. He will get that first position. And this is the move, a switch to the inside, and it was a very good move, but Harry Wills couldn't defend from it. He gave it a go into the hairpin, but there was no way back through, and Alex Sharenga now has the track to himself.
Led into a false sense of security was Harry Wills, because Alex Sharenga kept it to the left-hand side. Harry Wills thought, I'm safe, I can bring it back, and then as soon as that happened, Alex Sharenga darted to the inside and managed to claim the race lead back, and Harry Wills unfortunately didn't have an answer for it, maybe to the inside of Druids, but again was on the suboptimal line in towards Graham Hill, so Alex Sharenga playing the clever strategy there of just finding a way through, playing the psychological game and baiting his opponent into that false sense of security. The first of the GT3 AMs into what is expected to be a scheduled stop for Timo McEwen, and coming in really early as it gets a bit of argy-bargy, I think, between Simon Dodd and Thomas Pugh on the run towards Druids Corner. The Lamborghini looking to the right-hand side. Is he brave enough on the brakes? Very tight line indeed. The BMW of Costa and El Haddad also trying to get involved side by side between Costa and El Haddad a little bit further back. Simon Dodd trying to fight back in towards Graham Hill, and off goes Thomas Pugh, and maybe was he pushed off a little bit there, or was it a mistake on his own?
Just got his wheels on the grass on the outside, I think. That was the end for Thomas Pugh. Is there any damage there? I don't think so. Just got on the outside here. I don't think Simon Dodd really squeezed. Oh, no. Oh, maybe there was contact. I think you were right, actually. There was contact there. Simon Dodd just getting the Lamborghini out of shape and onto the grass. Let's see here. Sort of looking half to the inside here, and then maybe the Lamborghini getting on the brakes a bit early. Yeah, there was definitely contact there. And luckily for Pugh, the barriers aren't that close there. However, he still went miles off the road and lost out on quite a few positions, so there might be a penalty coming here for that one. Meanwhile, by the way, further down the order, Jeremy De Boyver has been off, and we didn't see that. However, Jeremy De Boyver, championship leader in the AM category, has been off, and this is turning into a bit of a disastrous day for him.
Yeah, of course, he had a prime opportune moment in race 1 to try and get some legs over Van der Broek, but yeah, isn't being able to take that opportunity as well as he would have imagined. And Harry Wills going a little bit wide off the exit in towards Dingledale, and maybe it is again similar to race 1. Now we're sort of halfway through the race, his car falling away from him and maybe pushing a little bit too hard in that first stint. Sean Campbell now potentially breathing down his neck to make it an RSL 1-2 once more between Alex Sharenga and Sean Campbell. Very, very close in pace are the two of them, and both of them managed to fight their way towards the front of the field. And yet Harry Wills may be falling victim to yet another RSR car very shortly. Back to the front for the GT3 AMs, though Mark Bailey still leads the way, but Dave Vlaminck is putting some pressure on, and oh no, Mark Bailey goes off through Sterling. He's going to tumble back down. Dean Timms tries to avoid him. Dave Vlaminck into the race lead, and what unfortunate but crucial mistake really in this race for Mark Bailey.
Just gets in that grass on the outside of the penultimate corner at Sterling's, and there it is. All four wheels off and loses the car. Big hit into the wall. The leader in the AM category has changed hands. Udo Vlaminck is now the leader. Bailey goes back to the pits, and that's so unfortunate for him. It's Vlaminck versus Van der Broek in the lead of this race, and you have to applaud the avoidance there by Dean Timms as well, because he didn't quite know what was going on there and could have easily joined that accident.
It's so sketchy when, you know, a car spun off in front of you and you're travelling at such high speeds, especially off the exit of Sterling. You're not exactly going slowly, and he didn't have much time to react, just had to commit to a line and hope, and indeed his hope paid off and managed to get himself through and stay in P3. Lost a little bit of time to Dylan Van Meek and Timothy Van der Broek for first and second. He's a couple of seconds back in P3, but still compressed on, and we're not exactly robbed of a fight for the race lead in the GT3 AMS because it is still only half a second between our two race leaders. Sean Campbell managed to eventually get through on Harry Wills, I think in towards turn 2, and Harry Wills falling to the final spot of the podium. In fact, it was into turn 1. Easy move, really. Harry Wills running a little bit wide, and Sean Campbell just said, all right, I'm going to shorten this run, and managed to get ahead before the braking zone of turn 1.
That was bizarre. It was very slow out the exit of final corner and drops to 3rd place. This is Jorge Ferrer getting... this might be the reason, actually. Ferrer gets hit around there by Wills. So there was contact between the two, and Ferrer does not want to be in the way of everybody there. The contact was made. Wills is just lost out on a lot of pace because of that and got overtaken as a result. Stuart Reynolds in the 7th position at the moment, just trying to get through on Liam Ahern. Been a weird day for Stuart Reynolds because his pace has indicated top 3 position maybe for him over the races. However, he's had mistakes and incidents and nothing has really gone right for him just yet.
It is a shame because the potential is there. Harry Wills into the pit lane from 3rd place in the GT3 Pros and feeling his way into the pit lane, and still the fight between Stuart Reynolds and Liam Ahern. Reynolds making the best of what he's got. You have to play with the cards you're dealt, and even if things haven't gone his way, both over race 1 and halfway through race 2 so far, he's still doing the best he's got to try and push forward and use what pace he has got to press forward. His pace really isn't at all that bad. He's quicker than Thomas Dandridge in front of him for P4, and yeah, again, just pushing forward and trying to make amends for what has been a tough night. And that's the thing, even if it is a tough night, you know you've got the pace and you just have to do your best and minimise the damage, and I think that is exactly the aim for Stuart Reynolds so far in this race.
This is Dave Fleming in the lead of the race, with Van der Broek just in behind, with Dean Timms, the Mercedes, just a few seconds back. If things go to end right now, I do think that Dean Timms would actually take the lead of this GT3 AM Championship, because he would be scoring 42 points to add to his existing 37 from this round, which is a good 14 more than looks like Jeremy De Boyver is going to get, and so there would be a championship lead for Dean Timms. Let's not forget, despite the fact Jeremy De Boyver is having a real bad race here, I know he's gained another point there with the crash of Mark Bailey, but he's still having a very poor race. But his worst result so far is 65 points throughout a race, which is really quite a high score. So this round may become his drop round, and so he'll still, in effect, have 65 points added to his total compared to what he had at the start of tonight. So it's still not going to be bad for Jeremy De Boyver, but it's only because of his consistency and his greatness so far in this season.
Yeah, exactly, and that is going to be ever crucial for him. He just needs to now not make the mistake and commit to this being his drop round, and if he has an even worse round than this one, then it might be the deal sealed for him. But again, that is why consistency will be rewarded, because he's got 65 points in the bank ready to be used if he does have an off round like he is today, and that will really keep him in the fight. And that is why I do really like drop rounds, because it does keep a lot of people in the fight for a lot longer in the championship. And of course, if you have to miss a round or things don't go to plan, it's not all over, and can keep things very, very interesting, as it is in the GT3 AMS, because if it stays as it is, Dean Timms will become the second change of the championship lead just tonight alone. So if that says something.
The drop rounds are great and all, but can you imagine how difficult our lives are going to be when we're figuring out the AM Championship in the final round of this series? Dear me, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare, but it's going to be very entertaining indeed. So stay with us for that race at Daytona. It's still a good 6 weeks away. However, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing who's going to come out on top in this AM Championship. At the moment, the top 3 are kind of getting away in this race. Behind, it's all a big battle for 4th. Kamano is currently leading it with Diarmuid Sestamoinen in that 5th place. He's got Werner Eis, and there's Ivo Linden in the background. Ashraf Haddad only 8th at the moment, and considering where Dean Timms has got to, I'm a little bit surprised he's still in that position, actually. I was expecting a bit more progress maybe from El Haddad in this race.
course, he did have the incident a little bit earlier on, but yeah, that is he's again, it's so easy to get bogged down in these fights like this because the gap between Dean Timms and David Camano is about 20 seconds. So it is you've been tightly locked in this fight and you lose time lap after lap after lap. So Al-Haddad's progress has really been hampered by this just train of cars because there's not really much you can do because everyone in front of you is squabbling for position. It's not like you can just carve your way through, and that's why you've got to capitalise early, like the likes of Alex Ranger and Sean Campbell, who pushed forward early, got them just out of the deep end in terms of cars, and then able to have that clear out a little bit later on. And yeah, for Al-Haddad that's not been the case, and still P8, but in a championship fight it's not what he wants at all. Same to Aviva van der Linden, who again will probably just have to settle for P7, maybe even P6, P5, P4 really is his best bet in this race. So yeah, not looking good at all.
Pit stops are going to be soon. They've already been happening a little bit in these categories in this race so far. I've seen so far 18 drivers yet to come in at the moment, so we'll wait for that. Oh, it's off the road for David Camano. Is he going to keep it out the wall? Oh, just about does. Jarmo Sastamoinen goes through. Werner Race does. Linden does. Where's Al-Haddad? He's just in the background there. He's in the Lamborghini, and he might well get up to 7th. There he does. Camano did a good job to keep it out the wall, but he loses out a lot of positions for his trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's good keeping it out of the wall and all, but the mistake in turn has cost him quite a lot of places from where he was heading the way in P4 now down to P8, and it's going to be a tough ask really to fight back, and he just needs to scrub off the mistake and push forward. Going to see how it happened. Through Sheen Curve, just again, the car just didn't cooperate with him at all, just nearly went straight, trying to carry a bit too much speed in, potentially riding the curve, the grass, and over the curb in towards Sterling. Man, it did a really good job to keep it safe though. That car wasn't much of a hazard for everyone else around him, kept it predictable, kept him largely in control of the car for the majority of that incident, so always good. And now he can just sort of press forward. He certainly has got the pace to press forward, but again, track position has proven to be so crucial around a track like Brands Hatch, and maybe he can capitalise in the pit stops.
Maybe it's all going to change in the pit stops. Hard to know really. We are over half an hour into this race now, and with the 50% fuel limit, surprising somewhat that we haven't seen more pit stops yet in this race. Less than half the field has been in, as Linden now gets demoted by Al-Haddad, making a brave move around the back of the circuit at the moment. You can see it in the background. Signs or seals the deal through Dingledale there, as there's another car off the road. That's Chatterton. Chris Chatterton in the Audi has been off, and he certainly has. You can see the damage to that Audi. He's connected with a wall here. Oh! Harry Wills, who gets into the back of him. Not intensely, of course, but Chatterton was already having that wiggle, and then I think it was Harry Wills who unfortunately gets into the back of him there and has done quite a lot of damage to that Audi.
Easily done. Again, that car just was so squirrely, didn't really want to cooperate with him at all, and then of course was just taken with Harry Wills. So I think latched really onto the back of that Audi and was taken into the incident with him. So again, a shame for the pair of them. Harry Wills managed to get out a little bit less scathed than Chris Chatterton, but again, still
a little bit less scathed.
The pair of them. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It was coming. I have no clue, mate. We were talking about a wide range of vocabulary. It's not something I've really got, but yeah, maybe need to get David Christie to give me some lessons.
Is that even though he's Scottish? Yeah.
Even though he's Scottish, yeah. No.
I didn't
Might
say
need
that.
to be there for a while.
A little less. I didn't even know that was possible. A little less scathing, but there we are. It might be.
If you come
out
unscathed,
now anyway.
Just flip it on his head.
Well, yeah, I'm using it now anyway. Chris Chatterton into the pit lane. Think for the first time today. It is indeed for the first time during this race anyway, to get that little bit of damage repair and of course get the right amount of fuel in the car for him to be able to go to the end of this race. These guys are going to have to think about that soon as well. It's Fleming, Vanderbroek and Timms for the win in this race, and Dean Timms, despite being third, actually does look the quickest to me in this field at the moment. He did the fastest lap of his race so far during that last lap. Closed on the both of them. Could all be settled during the pit stop, but I think it's going to be settled in a bit of a brawl in the final 50 minutes on the circuit.
Certainly hope so between these three, because the GT3 AMs have given us some fantastic action, and a three-way fight for the race leader is going to be absolutely sensational to watch. Hopefully they can stay close throughout the pit stop phase, but yeah, they are leaving it quite late in order to come in, and maybe we might get some people that maybe try and stretch it a little bit all the way to the end. Who knows? Well, only time will tell, but still, Timothy van der Broek trying to put on some pressure on D-Lily Vlaming in front, and yeah, as you say, Dean Timms with some impressive pace, trying to get onto the back of them, and maybe to put some pressure on Van der Broek to push forward a little bit, because Dean Timms might get a bit impatient, because again, third place in a train, you sort of work with second place to say, well, all right, we can maybe work together to try and get the person leading the way, but again, if Dean Timms has got the pace, it's going to put that pressure on Van der Broek to try and put a move on, and then that'll really catalyse things and put things into motion for this fight.
It will. They're kind of at arm's length at the moment, but when this all kicks off, it certainly will. There's a little bit of grass there for Vlaming, using all of the road he possibly can. Can use a little bit of that on the right hand side, but not too much, because obviously changing direction while on the grass is never a good idea, as Harry Wills nearly proved there. A little bit too wide, not the best idea either, but he was able to recover from that one and will continue on his way in 6th place as the leader Alex Urenga is into the pit lane. Thomas Reiter doesn't have to come in just yet, he's got the field to continue, so he will do. But Alex Urenga, despite having made that pit stop while some of those around him have not, he still comes out in the lead, or nearly comes out in the lead, so he comes out in 2nd place, just ahead of Thomas Dandridge, despite the fact that Dandridge has not made a stop just yet. It's a remarkable drive, another one from Alex Urenga, who's becoming increasingly difficult to beat here in this championship, as we've been saying all along.
He's the man on form, isn't he? He's just so incredibly well-rounded in terms of pace, consistency, patience, racecraft, every attribute that you can name for a racing driver, and he's got all of them in this series, and yeah, has been the man to set the bar. He's really been head and shoulders above the rest, and yeah, he's just going to be so difficult to beat in the second half of the season for everyone around him, as we cut our attention to the GT3 AMs El Haddad trying to go around the outside of Saston Moynihan, who comes into the pit lane, so easy move there up into P4 at the moment. But now the pit stop cycle really has got into motion, and this is really going to be crunch time for a lot of these drivers to maximise the clear out that they've got, and then crucially not to succumb to the pressure in the pit lane, because while it sounds simple enough, it's so easy to lose a few seconds just by missing your pit box.
Yes, it's surprisingly easy to do. As Thomas Reiter makes his way down from the lead of the race now. Better get into the pit box lane before they become solid again. He has to drive into the side of the Mercedes, but he's not going to have to do that. And Alex Urenga is going to take the lead of this race. 13 minutes to go, and it is smooth sailing for him from here. He's got a nice little gap over his teammate of just under 5 seconds. This should be it in terms of this race. Another RSR 1-2. They are dominating this season between the two of them. And we're going to see whether the two of them will be up there once again. RSR will be up there and winning once again in the US series in 3 or 4 hours time. But yeah, it's a great position for the team to be in. They're looking on their way to another victory. What is the AMS standings going to look like though, because D-Day Vlaming is into the pit lane, and this is really going to be the moment. We're waiting for Timothy van der Broek obviously to come in, but we've already seen Dean Timms in the pit lane. Vlaming is out now, Timms coming down the pit lane, and it looks like Vlaming has gained some time, because Dean Timms' pit stop was 3 seconds longer than most of those around him. Now, unless everybody else has miscalculated, that is too much of a long stop for him.
Yeah, it could be crucial for him in this race. Of course, was able to, on just sheer pace, close up onto the 2 race leaders in the GT3 AMs. But yeah, he's either got this really right or really wrong compared to those around him. We'll find out in 12 minutes' time when the checker flag is waved, and whoever comes out on top will certainly have got it right in terms of the pit stop strategy. But that is how crucial times like these can be. Yes, it's all good being quick and consistent on track, but if you can't nail that pit stop strategy, it really can be detrimental to you. Timothy van der Broek, who still is heading on in that BMW with the traffic in front of him, you have to say he's probably going to come in soon, and indeed doesn't take the chicane, and probably good that is the case, because it's so precarious to negotiate that chicane. So just straight into the pit lane, and now it's a race against time between himself and D-Day Vlaming for who comes out in front.
Let's see, is this pit stop going to be a bit shorter for Van der Broek? He's the final driver in the field to come in, and it is shorter. The fruits of his labour now being seen, but it's only just half a second shorter, although that was pretty much the gap as the two of them came into the pit lane. Van der Broek makes his way down the pit lane. Where is Vlaming? Can't see him at the moment on the right-hand side. It looks like Timothy Van der Broek might have just taken this one. He has indeed. There's Flamington, the Porsche. He's been jumped here. Van der Broek goes for the overcut. He goes for the shorter pit stop. He's got the lead, but will he be able to hold on to it?
Going to be crucial now for him to get settled back into the river, and now Vlaming is not going to like that at all. Will want to put some pressure on early and try and get himself back into the race lead, but as you quite rightly say, the hard work coming into fruition for Van der Broek, who worked hard, went a little bit longer, paid, suffered a little bit earlier on trying to save a little bit of fuel, but again that time was paid back to him in that much shorter pit stop, and now it's going to be an all-out brawl for the race lead. Crucially though for him, he's got the track position, and now all he has to do is withstand the pressure. Easier said than done though for the BMW.
Oh, and it's getting to him, most possibly already there with a little bit of a trip onto the grass. Vlaming applying a lot of pressure to him, but Van der Broek going to really want to hold on to this win, because it would be massive in terms of this championship to put as many points into his rivals as possible. Out through the penultimate corner, and less than 10 minutes to go here. R.A.W.S has been off the road somewhere here, by the way. He's dropping down the order at quite a drastic rate now. 10th and outside the top 10 now. He stopped off track in the first sector at the moment. Where he's got back going again now finally, but drops all the way down to 12th place. And for whatever reason, as Vlaming just gets all out of shape through turn 1, loses a load of momentum.
That is not great at all. Of course, with only 10 minutes left to go in this race, cannot be affording mistakes like that at all. He has to be applying this pressure, as we see what happened to R.A.W.S, the number 65 in that Audi, going a little bit wide. A very awkward spin there, and it took a while for the car to go, but once it did, it just skated off, and that is unfortunate for him. But Van der Broek at the moment doing a great job of withstanding that pressure. Still 9 minutes of him to try and defend, and Vlaming just needs to just anything really, as Alex R.A.W.S has gone off the turn 1 in towards Druids. Campbell takes the lead, and once more another mistake for Alex R.A.W.S, who seemed unstoppable in this race, and that is that is a mistake that we don't often see, but one that has come in. And again, that mistake of running wide through T1 into the barrier or going into T2.
A lack of concentration, a rare lack of concentration there from Alex R.A.W.S, who hits the wall relatively hard there, and he'll be lucky to get away without major damage. It looks like he has done though. He kind of had two impacts with the wall there because of the way the tyre barriers are set up, and so the first one kind of lessened the blow of the second one, rather than the whole car taking the whole hit there. So it looks like he's gotten away with it, and he's second now behind Sean Campbell. But all of a sudden, a lack of concentration. We were basically giving that race win to him, but with less than 8 minutes to go, now there's a bit of a race on. If Alex R.A.W.S has got the car underneath him now to go after this race win once again.
He's not done himself any favours, and Sean Campbell now, these are the moments going into the week break that he will want to end the first half of the season on a high to remount that championship charge towards his RSR teammate. But Alex R.A.W.S has got some hard work now in these final stages of this race. Has had the measure of his teammate by a couple of tenths or so each lap. And now Sean Campbell, that gap under a second between himself and Alex R.A.W.S, who will maybe be nursing a bit of damage, not crucially a lot for Alex R.A.W.S, because still that pace is phenomenal. But yeah, how hard are these two going to fight over P1? Is Campbell going to... I'm getting word that Campbell is just slowing to try and let his teammate go back through. So, well, that is not one that we as commentators like to see, but as a team working together nicely for the two RSR cars.
Yeah, I mean, they are working together. Not sure why Campbell was slowing down to let R.A.W.S through here, really, because obviously the two of them are part of the same team. There is a team's championship to think about as well, but they're leading that, and it doesn't really matter what order they finish in, so as long as they do. Maybe Campbell just relinquishing interest in the EU Championship here in terms of trying to win it, because he could very much give his teammate a run for his money here. He's got the pace to give his teammate a run for his money here, but for whatever reason, if he doesn't want to go for it, or being told not to go for the Drivers' Championship, it'd be a real shame to see it basically uncontested. But if Campbell is indeed slowing down and is indeed going to let R.A.W.S through, then it basically is going to be uncontested. We're not entirely sure whether he is slowing down at the moment or not. But he certainly just... I can't really tell at this point, but he is leading at the moment. And Renger maybe pushing a little bit harder. Not entirely sure. We'll see if they do actually fight each other over this. But I think even in a normal situation, Urenga might not try and overtake Campbell if indeed there are no team orders here. But we'll find out.
He's certainly teasing us, isn't he, Ewan? But I mean, I know you won't be too fussed about that if he's just keeping us on edge, really, isn't he? He's keeping us on our toes, making sure we're awake. But yeah, it's an awkward one because maybe he wants to go for this race win himself, but is being told not to. But again, as a racing driver, you want to go for a race win. He's been handed this golden opportunity to press forward over Alex Urenga, who now has reclosed that gap to under a second. Maybe Sean Campbell initially wanted to let him go, but then thought, I'm not just going to lose time, press forward, and then as soon as Alex Urenga closes up, maybe won't put up much of a fight. But Alex Urenga does need to do the hard work of closing up to his teammate. But yeah, still only a tenth of a second difference for Alex Urenga on that last lap, only a tenth quicker, 22.1 for Sean Campbell, a 22 dead for Alex Urenga. But yeah, the two RSR cars very closely matched. And, yeah, it's a strange one going into the final 5 minutes. I think if it was anyone else, Sean Campbell finally pulls over to the right hand side to let his teammate through, but I'm not entirely sure why.
Don't bounce off the road there, but what was happening at the front of the field? Well, Sean Campbell slowed down a lot there. See, front of the race, slows down. That was very bizarre. It brakes very severely going towards the line. And then that's back going again about 2 seconds after Urenga. So I've no idea why he slowed down quite so much there. But yeah, 4 laps to go, including this one now, and Urenga has been let back through again. Campbell behind again. And it does look like the two of them are basically going to go 1 and 2 to win this teams and try and win the drivers as well. Almost in this formation, which is just bizarre, especially if I was Sean Campbell. I'm unsure as to why he doesn't want to challenge Urenga for the title.
I mean, for Sean Campbell, he's got the US championship as well in his hands, so maybe he doesn't want to steal all the glory from his teammate or whatever. But yeah, that is a shame, really, because I think if they weren't teammates, it could have been a monumental battle for the race lead in these closing stages. But again, that is how the cookie crumbles, and they are teammates. They're fighting for a team's championship, so don't exactly want to fight each other too hard. This is Yarmouth Aston Martin. He's got James F. Costa for company in that black and silver BMW behind the green Mercedes. A little bit further up, Dean Timms getting himself ahead of Vlaming, who has gone off through 30s. That is massive, and Timothy van der Broek has really got an easier time in this race. Is he going to fall victim to El Haddad as well? That is crucial for the Porsche, who lost a lot of time really to the race leader and in towards 30s, just went a little bit wide, drifted off, and yeah, it's not the Indy layout, mate. You've got to go around the whole way.
Yeah, just a difficult braking zone there, curving round to the left-hand side as we got this contact now. Linden and Costa make contact, and Linden's going to lose out on points on this, just as Dean Timms was gaining some of his own. Linden, in an attempt to make a move here, capitalise on the mistake from Costa, has gone around for a spin. Oh, this is hard to work out who's at fault for this one. Maybe Linden just faded away from the apex there, not intentionally, but it did look like he might have done. Costa, though, will be exceptionally disappointed. He's going to drop outside the top 10 as a result of that spin.
It's such a shame in these final few moments because, again, as I said in race 1, you don't have much left of the race to go, and then for it to all come undone with just moments to go is heartbreaking. But for Timothy van der Broek, he's not going to be complaining at all. He's got a massive gap, but things like this is not going to help him. He goes off the road in towards 30s as the Lamborghini in front of him just doesn't want to move out the way at all. That could spell disaster, maybe. I think he's gotten away with it versus the number 44 Lamborghini, but things like that could allow Dean Timms to close the gap. It doesn't seem like that is going to be the case, but for Didier Vlaminick, he's completely thrown away a golden opportunity here, but Van der Broek has done the hard work and has managed to push forward and put himself in that crucial racing position after the poor showing in race 1. Has managed to fight back in race 2, which is a great recovery, and just goes to show how good this format is for keeping everyone in touch.
Penultimate lap of the race now for the RSR. The RSR guys. Thomas Wright has been closing down on Sean Campbell here the last couple of moments. Not sure if he has damage here, Campbell, or not, but I don't know where he would have got it from. Though clearly just being caught by Reiter at this stage, just naturally. Going to Hawthorns now, and he'll just try and hold on to this second place, but I think given that there's only 1 lap to go at the line, Reiter is going to run out of time here, I think.
I think so, and yeah, it's going to be an awkward one. Maybe a fuel issue for Sean Campbell having to nurse at home. Reiter just needs to push forward. That gap is closing very, very quickly though, so that might be why Sean Campbell didn't put much of a fight up against his teammate, because he knew he'd have this issue and didn't want to slow him down too much. But Reiter now all over the back of him as Alex Urenga comes on to start the final lap of this race. For race 2 is probably, you have to say, mistakes aside, going to be able to bring it home for a second double race win in a row. Did it last time at Imola, he's going to do it again at Brands Hatch, but very, very close, less than a second between second and third. Thomas Reiter, he's going to give it everything for second place.
He will. He's gained drastically in these final few laps. We go on board with the Audi now. Last lap it was another half a second gained on Campbell. But there's minimal places to overtake around here, especially when you're starting at a half-second disadvantage, as we're seeing for him now. Things are going to be difficult for him. Maybe Hawthorne's would have been an opportunity if he was close enough with this slipstream and longest straight on the circuit actually, but no way through this distance. Different lines being taken by the two might reflect the different car choices and what they are dealing with at this stage, but kind of tricky corners, none of them overtaking opportunities, especially from this distance. Good few corners between the two of them. It looks like Campbell's going to hold on for the RSR 1-2. Alex Urenga is just up the road, and despite a scare at turn 1, biggest incident we've seen from him pretty much all season so far, he is going to take the race win. Or is he? He slows down towards the line. Campbell closes and closes, but it's going to be Urenga to win.
Oh
Campbell asserting his second place there, my goodness, ahead of Thomas Reiter, who gets home third. Harry Wills will hold off Thomas Dandridge for fourth in the pro category, or will he? Wills just gets onto the grass ever so slightly. Dandridge will pull alongside, but he won't be able to make his way through, and so Wills holds on to fourth. Dandridge will be in fifth position with Reynolds just in behind. There's going to be a Hearn, Dreyer and Charlton rounding out those completing the race. Meanwhile, in the AM category, we're going to see Timothy Vanderbroek come towards the line now and take a race victory, a historic one for his championship, although behind it's going to be Dean Timms likely taking the championship lead here, away from Jeremy De Boyver, who only finishes 17th. Vlaminck will be disappointed with third, even though it's still a good result, and Ashraf El Haddad will be wondering what could have been for him, as he had that issue early on in the race. Recovered well though to a fourth place finish. A good race at Brands Hatch. It will look like a very close finish in the record, but in the end it was RSR domination completely.
Yeah, as to be expected, really. That team is absolutely flying out in front, setting the standard, and yeah, Alex Urenga especially at the forefront of it. Well, a bizarre finish between the two of them, but yeah, well, we see the two Giza Racing Team Mercedes bringing it home in formation as well. But yeah, great race for El Haddad as well. Great recovery, as we saw they got bogged up in that fight amongst the midfield. Managed to recover, get again crucially in their pit stop phase, able to get some clear air and push forward, use their pace to good means and bring it home for P4. But again, well, less than a tenth of a finish, as you say, in the record books. But yeah, it really wasn't the case at all.
No. RSR 1-2 there ahead of Thomas Reiter. Harry Wills just holding off Thomas Dandridge for fourth. Stuart Reynolds just outside that top five once again, with Jonas Dreyer in seventh, and Liam Ahern, the final car, one on the lead lap. Chris Chatterton one lap down. Ethan Bass, Michael Patterman and Albin Schellberg did not make the checkered flag. In the AM category, it was Timothy Vanderbroek taking a bit of a step forward in this championship by 3 seconds ahead of Dean Timms. The new leader, D-Day Vlaminck, will be third ahead of Ashraf El Haddad, the final car on the lead lap. Then it was Jarmo Sester-Moyden rounding out the top five. Eva Linden recovered from that spin on the penultimate lap to finish sixth. Timo Mikio in seventh ahead of Simon Dodd, Thomas Pugh and Dirk Boutz rounding out the top 10. Werner Ace was 11th ahead of James Costa, who fell through the field in those final couple of laps, to 12th. Dominic Goodsell 13th ahead of Jorge Ferrer, then David Camano and James Slates. Jeremy De Boyver a lowly 17th for him, I'm afraid, and he will lose the championship lead as a result. Mark Bailey did not reach the checkered flag after crashing out from the lead of the AM category. Ho Jensen, Navarro De Boyver and Vladimir Halibai also did not see the checkered flag. Well, there we have it, Zach. 2 great races there from Brands Hatch. 2 predictable winners in the Pro category, but I can't quite get over how close this AM title fight is shaping up to be. Once again, another twist in the tail, with the championship leader losing out on so many points.
Yeah, again, as I said, the pendulum can swing one way and then very quickly swing the other, and it is so close, so tight. You cannot afford to make any mistakes at all. Jeremy Boyver now needs to have that as his drop round, put it in his pocket, gain those 65 points back, and just push forward for the rest of the season. Of course, a break week next week, and then it is just crunch time from now all the way to round 10 at Daytona.
It is indeed. Make sure you remember about the break week. Don't come back here this same time, same place, expecting more racing, because we do have that 1 week off, but we will return in 2 weeks' time at Donington Park for the next round of the EU Series. Although stay tuned, because in 3 hours' time we'll be going live with the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship US version. That will be one to tune in for a little bit later, so make sure you stay with us for that. But until that race a little bit later on, from me, Ian O'Leary, Zach Sweeney and David Christie behind the cameras, it's goodbye for now.